Welcome to part 2 of watching a pro foiler struggle to power wing.
It's open.
If you haven't seen the first video, you need to go back and watch that. Also, it's worthwhile going through the comments. There was so much good advice in the comments, so I thank you to everyone who took the time to provide advice. I did read through all of it. I didn't reply to everyone because there was over 100 comments and a lot of them were really involved. So I had a breakthrough session this week. So I have really decided that I've actually only had 2 sessions power winging because I've only had 2 sessions where there's actually been wins so far. So I'm taking it a lot easier on myself. My last video, I got some criticism that it was a bit negative, and I don't think that's true. But what I will say is if you go in light wind 4 times in a row, you will fucking hate power winging. Before we jump into the session that I had, big shout out to Trent Gordon. Follow him on Instagram. He's a great rider for Cloud9. He immediately saw this on the power wing design. And as we start this video, I want to give you this awesome tip that'll change the bar pressure of the power wing. So let's dive into this. Just ignore my really early days D-loop. When you get your power wing, the lines will be spread out over the bar. Now what this means is that, and I experienced this in this session, is when you are riding, your front hand tends to be up on the front lines, which are these red lines. And when you're overpowered, you even want to start riding like this. It's not very comfortable, and that's fine when you're hooked in, because when you're hooked in, it's like that, and you tend to just hook in, and then you just adjust your bar pressure. But if you are actually holding it with your hand, such a little simple trick to try, see if you like it. You move your middle lines to the back. Now, when I did this on the beach, you immediately feel more bar pressure in the middle, and you're able to hold it here even when it's powered up. It's like it moves the fulcrum point back on the bar. So now you could ride like in this section versus having to be all the way up here to get the D-power. You can even get D-power, like quite a lot of D-power, even from this spot. But it actually meant you could hold the bar all through this section here. I did move my loop down to about there, and that seemed to be the sweet spot for me. But just a little tip, try that, see how it goes. I don't know how it affects the performance, but it's worth trying, and big shout out to Trent. I didn't come up with this, but so this session I decided to take everyone's advice, go on my 8.6, I got a smaller foil, and I got the 5.5 meter, took it out for the first time. I probably needed the 4.2 for this session. So that was a little bit annoying, but I found that I was extremely juiced up on the 5.5 to the point that I was really struggling to get it to D-power and let me actually tack up wind. So it was sort of like an opposite problem. Now, I don't know if this is true. Josh Koo is about to find out. I'm a little bit suspicious that there might have been something wrong with my 4.2. The reason I think this, there was a comment in the comment section and he identified that there was something wrong with it. I've looked back at the footage and you can see that it just doesn't want to fly even when there's wind. Now the other part of that was as soon as I got this 5.5, it just felt better, even in light wind. So there might have been something wrong with my 4.2, which might have explained it. I don't know if it's like a line length disparity. I'll put up the comment from the person that spotted it. You guys can tell me what you think. I'm not going to blame the gear necessarily. I don't know enough to blame the gear. So I'm just putting that out there. Josh Koo, if he has a hard time, well then we know, but if he doesn't have a hard time getting up, well, yeah, but he is 20 kilos lighter than. So my breakthrough in this session was the harness, absolutely the harness. I made up that super crappy D shackle thing, and trying to cut up wind without a harness is extremely hard. It pulls you in the same way that a kite pulls you. And I think I came into this with the mind frame of it's like being hooked in but winging, but it's not. It's much more like kiting. And that was probably the biggest lesson that I learned. just having the hook harness is awesome. And I use the Cloud9 Anchorman 2 that's come out. Awesome product, I checked that out. Got a hook. Jives and tacks. I did quite a few successful jives, but I did a lot of really bad ones. And the reason why it's so frustrating learning to power wing is because of the turnaround time. So you make a mistake, you fall down. It's not like just pulling a wing out and putting it back up in the air. It's even not like learning to downwind where you fall off your board, you get back on your board and you stand up. But the amount of detangling that you have to participate in is frustrating. I'm not gonna lie about that. So the sessions are pretty frustrating in that sense, but I did have some success. And if I wasn't falling on jives, you wouldn't have the tangling issues. The question I've been thinking about is a para wing something you should learn to downwind on? And I'm going to say a very strong no. Now the reason is turnaround time, as I said, is not quick. You have to detangle. Sometimes it gets wrapped around your leash. Sometimes it lands on your head. And so getting up on para wing, then riding in the bumps, then potentially falling because you don't know how to read the bumps, your turnaround time to get the para wing back up in the air can be very slow and you're just going to drift downwind. But I also think just not an efficient way to learn to downwind. In my mind, in my opinion, the most efficient way to learn to downwind and read the bumps is going to be a foil drive or your wing. They're the two most time efficient, easiest on your body ways to learn to downwind. The para wing is great in the sense that it will allow you to not learn to paddle if you don't want to, but it will not be a very good tool to teach you how to actually downwind. So I don't know how other people feel about that. Jimmy's probably had a similar opinion as well, but that's my opinion. I'm not gonna send somebody out and say, learn to downwind using a para wing. No way. In regards to upwind to downwind para wing, I am undecided on that also. Like I say, I'm still learning, but you have to make some compromises. And one of those compromises is you need to ride along a mast. I don't particularly like riding a long mast on a downwind. The reason you have to do that is because you have to lean back so hard to cut up wind. So you probably need an 85 centimeter mast. Now, for some people, you're not going to be bothered by that. You use that anyway. But I prefer to use a 75 centimeter mast on a downwind. So I had a lot of wingtip out while I was trying to cut up. But I do think you need a longer mast, like similar to a winging setup. There's a lot of crossover there. So that's not the best downwind setup. I have asked Amos to make me a 6 foot by 75 litre Cypher. And I'm going to test this as a para wing specific board. I could definitely tell when there was good wind and the right conditions that getting up actually isn't that hard. And I'm still confused why that day on a 4.2 with 30 knots that I really couldn't get up. Because the contrast to the other day on a 5.5 and 18 knots was huge. I just got up so easily. Like I even got up on my knees by accident when I was trying to taxi out. Whereas that 4.2 on that day, in that previous video, I could not get up, and that's why I think somebody thought there was something wrong with the wing. And having felt this now, I tend to think that might be the case. That's why I'm going to go to a 6 foot, because I want the benefits of the smaller board while I'm on para wing. Depowering on the para wings can improve. I'm of the opinion that if they could make a 5.5 have better depower, that's a better option for someone like me. If I could make it work and go upwind in 20 knots, that means I'll get the low end benefit of the ease of getting up. And if it's a bigger wing, then it should cut up wind easier with the right technique. I was definitely cutting up wind in this session, not anywhere near as far as I can normally get up on a wing, but only with the harness could I lean back enough to actually cut up wind. But so many times I was getting totally overcooked with speed and couldn't slow down, or if I did, it would just flutter heaps. And then what it wants to do, the wing as it's going along, if you depower too much, it wants to drop down and nose down into the water as it drops back. So then you have to pull the back lines in to get it to pull back into the window and then come back up. So I'd love to see that improve. So maybe a bridle system or something, I don't know. I'm not a kite designer, but there's improvements to be made. And I'm so glad I have the 5.5 now, because it's 15 knots. I think I'll have no issues getting up. The wrap up for this video is really, I took everyone's advice and I implemented it and things got better. So if you want to make it better, take the advice that I've provided in the last 2 videos and check out the comment section. It's not that bad when you can get the power wing to fly in the air. If you go in light wind, it just doesn't fly, and it's no fun whatsoever. My next steps is I'm trying to figure out the tack, because I think the tack is going to be so much easier. I've done 2 or 3 by accident, like I just tried them and just did them. But one of my worst crashes the other day was I tried to do a tack and I flew the kite too quickly and it just launched me flat on my back. Oh, that was the other thing, is if you can ride a switch with a power wing, massive benefit, because edging really hard on toe side, same with a kite, you can't get the same angle, and it's amplified with the power wing because the lines are so short. So I really need to learn to ride switch, because it's going to help my power wing so much. So look, that's all from this video. I hope you found that interesting. I will list the 5 things that ChatGPT said was the best advice down in the comments. Please let me know what you think. If you can spot anything that you think I need to improve on from this session, happy to be told what to make my life easier. And I put a reel recently on Instagram just to say, like, a lot of the pros don't share their struggles. We all message each other and, you know, this sucks and blah, I'm struggling with this. But they tend not to show the struggle, and what they do is they emerge knowing how to do a skill. And I don't tend to do that, and it probably doesn't serve me, because you want to just look great all the time. You know, when Kiahi Davids, if that's how you say it, when he comes out on a power wing, he's just going to be magically good at it. Everyone, Josh, James Casey, he's put up clips and he's good at it, but he struggled. Everyone struggles, and it's just, we're all gonna, I like to just share that I'm struggling, because it makes you feel normal when you struggle, if that's the case. And some of you just seem to have had a great experience, but I think I could have avoided a lot of bad experience if I just, that's the end of this video. I'll see you next Saturday.